What is good, everyone? This is your host, Deanna Radulescu with Label Free Podcast. To live your best life, you must live label free. As always, bringing incredible guests from all over the world, so sit back and relax and tune in. My next guest is a life coach and personal trainer with 13 years experience. He transitioned from an IT career into the health industry after an almost fatal cardiac arrest and rare heart condition. He is the former owner of the SQ1 Fitness Gym in Sydney West. Please welcome Jai Bazevski. Jai, did I say it correct?
You did.
All right. Well, there's a lot to unpack there. So I, number one, want to talk about what it was like leaving IT, because I know what that's like. I was in IT sales, like SaaS sales, to get into something completely opposite of that whole, like the IT industry. That's so different.
Yep. And it was probably one of the scariest things to do because I'd had this career for over a decade and I was doing really well. I had the high income, I had everything. It was all cushy.
Yeah.
And to give that up and to go for something so foreign and unknown, like I'd never run a business before. I'd never been in the fitness industry. I'd never done anything. It was completely just brand new. Yeah. But my intuition was just telling me, you have to do this. And over those last few years in IT, like I had a great career and I enjoyed it for the most part, but the last sort of couple of years, I was really just not liking it at all, to the point where I was getting depressed. And I just felt like I wasn't contributing, to the world enough. And I was sitting in like a server room on my own for 6 hours, configuring a firewall in, 1-degree air conditioning and thinking to myself, what am I doing here? Like, how am I contributing? And so, yeah, it was, I had a lot of pain in order to move me away from it. So that was what really drove me. But at the same time, yeah, it was a huge risk, huge challenge. Like my family and friends thought I was absolutely insane. People tried to talk me out of it. They're like, what are you doing? You're giving this up, So it was a big, big challenge. And I think that it made me a better person in the end, though, to be able to get through that.
For sure. I mean, and that what you were doing, probably you were making very good money, because I know that is like, when I was in IT and I was running this new business. It was a spinoff, a sister company. And we were always looking to hire for people like you that would do the firewalls and, just the programmers. I mean, there's so many different like areas of IT, but
yeah,
paid very well. And I'm sure
very well.
Really, it's the same thing.
100%.
So was the fatal cardiac arrest and rare heart condition what was like the eye-opening moment for you that you made that change, or what?
Yeah, it really was, because that happened in 2008, and then it took me it pretty much took me a whole year to recover, because I'd had this cardiac arrest which just came out of nowhere. I was playing basketball one day and then my heart just started going wild and I couldn't get my heart rate to calm down, and it was completely erratic and all over the place. And so I'd gone home that evening and I tried to meditate and relax and had a shower and did all these things to try and calm down, and just nothing would work. And 7 hours had gone by and I was still like profusely sweating and heart pumping as though I was like running a marathon. And I'd gone to dinner with my family. Like I got to my brother's place and my parents were just freaking out. And my mum was like, this is bad. This is wrong. We got to go to the hospital. And I was like, oh, no way. Like I hate hospitals. I don't want to go to the hospital. And then she couldn't convince me. And I was like, I'll be fine. And then she ended up calling our family doctor, and our family doctor was like, just get him to the hospital. If there's anything that's like funny about the heart, you just got to go straight to the doctor, straight to the hospital. So when she said, she goes, I just got off the phone, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, all right, well, let's just go. Like I did it to put them at peace.
Yeah.
And so we went out there and then they checked me in. First thing is like, they just think I'm on drugs. They're like, who's this guy? He's in his 20s, he's high as a kite. And obviously that wasn't the case. And so I'd gone in there and they weren't doing anything for me. I was just sitting in this hospital bed getting anxiety. And eventually I called them out. I'm like, what are you guys doing to help me? And they're like, they asked my family to leave the room and they're like, okay, your family are gone now. Tell us what drugs you're on. And I'm like, it took me a while and I was like, I've had nothing, you guys need to do something now to help me. And eventually they believe me. And so they said, we're going to give you this drug. It's going to stop your heart and start your heart again straight away. It's for people with an arrhythmia issue.
Okay.
And I was like, if you guys think that that's what's going to fix me, then do it, because I don't know what's going on. And they're like, okay.
It's scary though. Like you're a science experiment.
Yeah, exactly. And, but in my mindset at that time, I'm like, am I dying right now? Like, I didn't know what the hell was going on. So I'm like, do anything,
Yeah.
And so they did that, and I had an adverse reaction to it. It did not do what they said it was going to do. It put me straight into a coma.
Oh my
So
gosh.
yeah, so I was in a non-responsive coma. They put a ventilator in because I wasn't even breathing for myself, and my heart rate was still climbing. And so I was in a coma for 8 minutes, and then my heart rate just flatlined. So I clinically died for 3 minutes. And in that time, I don't know what they were doing in the 3 minutes, but eventually they defibrillated me back to life.
Yeah.
And then I just remember waking up, choking, and I thought I was like projectile vomiting actually, but it wasn't. I was just choking on this ventilator that I didn't know was in my chest. So my instinct, I just ripped that sucker out. And so they all lost it, and they pushed me down. I remember this guy, this big nurse guy, he put his hands on my chest and he just pushed me down onto the thing. And they got the big X-ray blanket, and they're like, "We need to check your trachea for damage. You just ripped a ventilator out of your throat." Blah blah blah.
Yeah,
They're
you're
almost like,
supposed to, like, as a process to take that out.
"Yep, I did it in about 1 second flat." And so they checked it all, and everything was fine. And I just remember at that time, I didn't care what they were saying. I just wanted to know whether my heart was doing that weird thing. So I was checking in on myself. I'm like, is it still happening? And then I realized that it wasn't. And then as soon as I realized it wasn't happening, I was just at peace. I was just like, okay, I'm fine. I'm going to be okay. So I just lied back in there. And I just remember, and it must have been maybe from the defibrillation, I was just exhausted, like to the point where I could barely even open my eyes. And then they put the oxygen on me, and they kept me there overnight. And so I went through this whole process, and they kept me there for 5 days while they were trying to figure out what the hell happened. And then after the 5 days, the cardiologist comes in, sits on the edge of the bed, and he's like, okay, you've got a rare heart condition, and there's two ways you can deal with it. You can either get on medication for the rest of your life, or you can have heart surgery. And both options seemed just shit to me.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to be on medication for the rest of my life. So I said, okay, maybe we should do the operation, because he said to me that you do the operation once and then you get out of here and we don't have to worry about you ever again. I was
Okay.
like, okay, that's probably the best option. So I did that. And then I went home for 3 months and went through this recovery stage where, like, physically, because they didn't open my chest up, they went through my groin. They put
Okay.
these wires up and in. So I couldn't even stand up straight at the end of it. My parents had to get my bed from upstairs and bring it down into the living room and set me up. It was a whole big deal.
Yeah.
And then emotionally, I was like, it took a long time to deal with all that, because every time my heart rate elevated, I thought,
Yeah.
is it going to happen? And
Scary.
so it was, so yeah, it was very scary. So I couldn't exercise, couldn't do anything for that 3 months. So I go back to, so after the 3 months, I go back to work, and I go and do one day. I went in on the Friday. I thought I'll start on the Friday, ease into it. Everybody's going to have questions and stuff. So I went and did that one day, and I was feeling okay. And then I went home that afternoon, heart surgeon calls, and he's like, we need to do the surgery again. And I was like, what? And he's like, we've been monitoring your ECGs, and we feel like we haven't fixed the problem. And I was like, far out.
What?
So I said, like, at that point, that was my lowest point. And I was like, I'm not meant to be here. That was the conclusion I had. It's like, I'm meant to die or something. So I said, look, let's just book it in and get it done ASAP, like as soon as you can, like tomorrow if you can get it done, because this is scary. And then he's like, well, I can get you in 6 days time, or something like that. It was like just under a week. And I said, yeah, book me in. And so we scheduled it all in, and then I was just like at rock bottom. I was floored. So I remember going upstairs, I told my family, and they were like, oh my God. Go upstairs, I get in the shower, and then it just, all the emotions come out. I'm crying. I'm doing the, like, why me? This is the worst thing ever. Like thinking I'm just meant to die, all this horrible, horrible stuff, and gives me goosebumps thinking about it. And I said to myself while I was in the shower and all these emotions were pouring out, I said to myself, I can't do this for the next week.
Yeah.
I've already committed to this surgery. So I said to myself, when I turn this shower off, my emotions get cut. I'm not going to think about it. I've booked myself in. I've just got to go through it, get it done, and I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
And so I put my hands on the shower, and I just, like, I couldn't turn it off straight away. I was just still like, I was like, I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready yet. So I stayed in there for, another couple of minutes, and I just let everything come out. And then I took a deep breath, turned that shower off, and it was just like, bam, that's it. I was just nothing, no emotions. And I went downstairs, and I went to my family, and I said, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to, don't ask me questions. Don't ask me how I'm feeling about it. I do not want it on my mind. Like, we're just going to go there and we're going to get it done. And then they're like, yep, that's good. Perfect. No worries. So we just lived out the week and, I remember driving to the hospital. I wasn't even thinking about it. I was just trying to think about like, I'm just going to work or I'm just going to the shop or something like that. Get there. Yep. Another day, check in, everything's all good. I'm just totally like holding my shit together. And then I remember I'm in the bed, I'm about to go into the theater, and then the surgeon comes out and then he's like, all right, Jai, he had his clipboard. He's like, I want to go over the risks. And then I was like, dude, I'm like, you got me here again for a second time. Don't even tell me, man. I go, just sign it off and let's get this done. And he's like, okay, cool. Yeah. So takes me in, gets the second surgery done, everything works fine. I remember waking up out of my general anesthetic, some lady's next to me and she's like, Jai, you're all good. It's all done. Everything was a success. It's perfect. You can recover and go home now. And I was like, yes, thank God. And then everything changed in my mindset. And I was like, hey, maybe I'm meant to be alive. Maybe there's a reason for my life. Maybe I have this purpose, maybe all this kind of stuff. And so thinking back over that whole process, I was in that cardiac ward. I was waiting for the surgery. I'm in the room with these other men and they're all overweight. You can tell they got the worst lifestyles ever. And they're about to go into their surgeries. They've got therapists coming in, giving them sessions, preparing them for death, essentially, asking them questions like, how, have you spoken to your family about, if this doesn't go right, all this stuff. And, there's just like a shower curtain in between us. And I'm listening to all this stuff and just getting my mind blown. And I'm looking around thinking like, none of these men need to be here. This isn't the way. Right. And so I got this insight at that time and I was like, prevention, it has to be, that's the only cure because this isn't the cure being here. So I was like, prevention is the cure. And then I was like, maybe this can be the transition that I want, because prior to this, I'd been thinking like, I need to get out of this IT space, but how am I going to get the high income? How am I going to walk into something and, keep my lifestyle? And, it was very challenging for me to figure out what to do. So I thought to myself, maybe I'll go to fitness, which is what I wanted to do when I was in high school. I wanted to be in fitness. And I was like, okay, maybe I can do that. Maybe I can help people like this to not get into this situation because this is freaking horrible. And so that's kind of what sparked it all off. And so then I had another 3 months of recovery. And then, so basically I had the 6 months of physical recovery and, 3 years of mental recovery. But in that process, I was just going with my intuition. My intuition just went through the roof. I didn't feel like I was very intuitive prior to this whole experience. And since that happened, I just feel like that I've got this, and it's not even my mind. It's just something that says like, do that. Like it's like a feeling. It's like a gut feeling. And whenever I feel that, I just go for it. And that's when, that's every decision I've made since that time has just been based off that. And sometimes I think to myself, like, I made a very big decision very fast and I didn't even second guess myself. That's really odd. But then I go back to that feeling again. It's like, no, that's like, it's almost like it's like logic. It's like, no, of course, that's fine. That's right. And so I can only put it down to intuition because it's something that I just didn't have before. And it's always worked out for me as well. So it's been good.
Sounds like you've followed your purpose.
100%. It's exactly what it is.
Yeah. That's kind of like that's what the show is all about. As I talk to people that have found their purpose and they're being true to themselves and followed it because, you had like an aha moment. You just like, wow. So, oh yeah. Like, so what was the heart condition?
It was called Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome, which is a additional electrical pulse that sits in the muscle. So we all have one electrical pulse and it sends messages to beat. I had this second one, which was dormant apparently my whole life. And under stress and pressure, it can ignite if you have it. And I was playing basketball at this time. And the night before, it was my best friend's birthday and we'd gone out drinking and I had a hangover. And I wasn't healthy in those days. I was eating McDonald's and doing whatever I wanted, 20s, didn't care.
Yeah.
And so I had this hangover. So my body was already stressed. And then I was pushing myself playing basketball. And so I think the combination just had triggered it.
Yeah.
And so then it was on from there. So yeah.
So what did they do to your heart?
So they took these wires and they went in through my groin up into the main artery to get inside to the heart. They used radio waves on a screen to put the wire onto the part of the muscle that had the electricity, and they sent a current and they burnt the muscle tissue. They singed it until the electricity burnt out.
Oh, wow. That's wild.
So
I'd
wild.
be like a superhuman person. You could
Yeah.
have redirected that like electric pulse somewhere else. I don't know.
Yeah, right. In my brain or something.
Well, you redirected it to finding your life's purpose, which is being a life coach and personal trainer now. So during your recovery, what was the point where you said, I want to become a life coach? Because I'm a certified life coach, and I remember going through the certification, and it is a very, I think it does help you get more intuitive and allows you to communicate better and really connect with other people on a completely different level than we've ever been taught.
1000%. And so I didn't even know what a life coach was at that time. I'd listened to some Tony Robbins programs, and I was into personal development, but he never really referred to himself at that time as a life coach. And so I was into it to a degree, but I got into the fitness first. So I did my certification as a fitness trainer, and I started my business, and I was training these ladies, and I was somehow, for whatever reason, I was attracting women who were obese, and I'm working with them, and I'm finding that I'm not making a difference. Like, I'm not breaking through with these women. I've got the
Yeah.
best training program, I've got a consistent blah, 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 but I'm not breaking through. And then I was in this business networking group called BNI. I'm sure you probably heard of it. And I was talking to this lady, and she's like, oh, I'm doing this life coaching course. Like, you should check it out. I think it'd be a really good addition to your business. And I was like, oh, okay. And she's like, have you heard of Tony Robbins? And I was like, yeah, I love Tony Robbins. And she's like, it's kind of like that. And I was like, oh, okay. And then so I downloaded their pack or whatever. And then I got a call. And then, and one thing led to another. I'm doing a diploma in life coaching. And it was so amazing though, because not only did it like unlock the tools that I needed to be able to get the transition for my clients, because it was all psychological, but also they're like teaching me marketing, sales, lead gen. My business just blew up as well because I applied it to my business and I applied it to my clients as well. So, I'm teaching all of these amazing concepts on how to move my clients forward and break through their limiting beliefs and all this crazy stuff. And I started to see amazing results. And like one thing led to another where I had all these testimonials, and then people wanted to know more about it. And so that just made the business grow massively. And like, I remember like the first part of the life coaching course was you're being coached, so it was all just pro bono coaching amongst each other. So we're all doing, multiple life coaching sessions with each other. And it was phenomenal. Even just sitting in on a life coaching session with other people, it's like so amazing.
It's
You learn so much.
It's eye-opening. Yeah.
Yep.
It's I'll never forget going through that certification process and how I've applied it to my life. But so I can only imagine what it did for you and being a trainer. Because I feel like being a life coach and a trainer goes hand in hand. I feel like if you're going to really help make an impact in someone's life, because I'm also a certified trainer, I'm too much of an empath, so I can't do it. Like I own too much of their success, so I have never been able to pursue those like 100%. But I feel like if you're going to make like a major impact on someone's life from a health standpoint, you really kind of got to get down to like the bare bones of what's going on with them, that they're not leading a healthy lifestyle and not honoring themselves and loving themselves and creating a life that they can fully appreciate for themselves, right? And so
Definitely.
if you're attracting heavier set women, like there's a lot of underlying things going on there.
Yep. And you said it with the self-love. That was like the biggest thing, and once we broke through that and started to help them understand that, the self-love and the self-sabotaging as well, and the reason as well, like a lot of I remember one girl, she had such a transformation. She lost 40 kilos, which is like over 80 pounds.
Oh, wow.
And the thing that triggered her was she was lonely and she wanted a partner.
Yeah.
And once we got down to that, it was just like a light switch.
Yeah.
And then she found her partner and then she reverted back. She left the area and she just kind of like went back to her old lifestyle again. I was like, oh, okay.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so I wasn't able to help her because she'd moved out of the area and stuff, and we couldn't keep it going. But that was what she wanted, and she got what she wanted. And for everyone, I noticed it was a different thing because they come to you and they're like, oh, I really want to lose weight. And it's like, okay, but why? And then you go, why? And then it really comes out.
What's your driving force? So do you only train and coach people that are in your area, or do you do a lot of work online as well?
It's all online now. So initially, so I had my gym in Sydney so it was like obviously for that local community.
Yeah.
And then so I ran that for 10 years with my wife and who's also a coach and trainer. And then 2020 hit and the shit hit the fan. Oh man, like because we're in Western Sydney as well, right? And so Western Sydney is very multicultural,
Okay.
very high population of Middle Eastern and all these different cultures that are like respectfully very non-compliant. And I'm very similar myself as well, like if something doesn't make sense to me, I'm not just going to do it, exactly, right? So I didn't I
Me
didn't
too.
get this I didn't get this thing in my arm. I didn't do
Neither.
any of that stuff. So I wouldn't even wear a mask, right? I was like,
Yeah.
this is bullshit. I'm not wearing a mask outside. So and our area, they just cracked down on us. Like there was other areas of Sydney where they let it all go, but our area was so bad because of the community that they wanted to set an example. And so our business got shut down in 2020 for 5 months. And I was like, you know what? Fuck this. I just kept it open. So I just shut the blinds, kept the roller door down of the warehouse, kept the door shut. I told all my clients, if you want to come, knock on the door. I'm here. We're
Yeah.
training. I had to keep my business
Good.
running because it was my income. And I was like,
Yeah.
fuck them,
Yeah.
And and so we did that, and it was still tough. And then it was a lot of stress. We had like the health inspectors
Oh,
like
yeah.
checking in and stuff. I use social distancing. I'm like, ugh. And and then it all opened up again, and we're like, okay, we got through it. We
Yeah.
survived. Like we're good. And then in 2021, we got shut down for 6 months, and I was like, this is too much.
Yeah.
So we went through that 6 month period again. I didn't shut down. I just kept everything going and just in silence, but very very stressful. And then we opened back up again. And then every time we opened back up, the clients were dropping, dropping, dropping,
Right.
dropping. People were getting scared and everything. And because they were saying that if a client goes to a business, that customer will get fined, and they were massive fines. So like $10,000 fines and stuff.
Yeah.
And then we had in the local supermarket, we had undercover police walking the aisles, giving people $1,000 fines on the spot for not wearing a mask.
Oh my
And
God.
it was
Oh my gosh.
insane.
I was one of those people not wearing a mask in the grocery store. I was like, no way. And we had
Yep.
gyms. I had gyms where I lived before that were staying open too. And I was like, these are my people, 'cause
100%.
I was just going there then, like you got to find your people when you're going through such crazy times and, you have to stick together. So that's just
Yeah.
insane though, because I would have gotten probably a lot of fines.
Yeah, exactly. So somehow I managed to avoid the fines, but we kind of retreated as well. We did online shopping. We kind of
Yeah.
adjusted. And then that's what, like, then it all opened up again. And I said to my wife, Kate, I'm like, that saying where it's like, if you fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I'm not going to go through this again. Like, we're seeing the decline in the business and it's not good. So we shut down the physical gym. We always wanted to move out of the city because we're not city people anyway, even though we're from the city. And but we just wanted to get away from the big population, get more into nature. So we always wanted to live on the beach. So we moved 9 hours north to
Wow.
warmer weather up near Queensland. I don't know if you know the area. And where like the beaches, like I could throw a stone onto the beach from here
Oh
right
my gosh, I
now.
love it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so amazing. And we're in a little town and out of the city. And so we just transitioned to online. And so we were lucky enough to keep a portion of our clients from Sydney. They just transitioned with us. And that helped us get going. And so we've just been doing that from now. And we absolutely love it because it's a great lifestyle. We don't have to deal with, the city nonsense and the pollution. We're on a main road. So I'd open up my roller door of my gym and then, there's trucks going past and, smelling the smog and that. And it's like, oh, this isn't good.
So
So
it's a blessing in disguise for you then.
100%, it was such a blessing in disguise. The whole COVID thing has been a blessing in disguise. We had a 10-year plan
Yeah.
to get out into the beach and it turned into like 10 weeks.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Cut that down for real cut that down real good.
exactly.
So if someone wants to work with you, whether it's being like work with you as a coach or as a trainer, what does that look like for them?
So nowadays, so it would all be in an online capacity. So we use our private training app. So generally, I would have a chat with somebody. They'd let me know what their goals are and what they want to accomplish, and then I would put them into my app. So the two big things that I like to do is I like to get them on a macronutrient diet plan, which is matching their goals, and then get them on a training plan that usually consists of resistance training to also help them achieve those goals. But everything is customizable. So we work to the client and to their needs. So, I just got a lady that signed on that's had fused discs in her back, and the most she can do is a 30-minute walk and 5 minutes on an elliptical machine.
Oh, wow.
So like that's how we're starting. We work on that and we focus on the diet, get the weight down, things start to improve, and we just go from there. So we work with all walks of people, and Square One Fitness, or SQ1, is the brand, and the name behind that is implying that we start from the foundations, we start from square one. So it's not like somebody has to have a level of fitness to come and work with us. We like to work with people that have no level of fitness and don't know what they're doing and need that coaching and that support and that help, and we work with the foundations. So we're very holistic in our approach, and we just scale people up at the pace that they need to be at. We start from where they're at, and then we move them up from there.
Love that. Where can they find you, connect with you, and learn more?
So I live on Instagram. That's basically where you can see my life. So I like to document my lifestyle because that is what I practice when I preach. So Instagram is at SQ1 Fitness AUS. That's the best place to find me. And then if you want to look at my programs and see how to work with me, that's on my website, which is sq1fitness.com.au.
Perfect. You guys, I'm going to put those links in the show notes. So go follow him on Instagram. Go check out his page. If you connected with his belief system and what he does to help his clients, don't hesitate to go schedule a call with him. I'm sure Jai would just love to hear from you and at least have a conversation and connect with you, because that's what we're here for, is to connect with each other and provide a better life for all, right?
Exactly.
This is a part of the show, Jai, where I like to ask for last words of wisdom or advice. What would you like to leave with us today?
If I could leave any advice with people, and talking about the health realm, I would say to build a strong routine, build a strong morning process where you're doing things for yourself first and not for everybody else. So wake up that little bit earlier and start the process with maybe some meditation, some reading, a walk. I like to do a 60-second pump. So when I get up, I do a 60-second pump. And so that means I just do burpees for 60 seconds. And it just ignites everything, wakes my body up, gets me in a good mood, just transitions myself from asleep to awake. So a little 60-second pump, and not everybody can do burpees, but it could be sit-ups or squats or push-ups or even jogging on the spot, like whatever works. Just wake up that body and just do things for yourself. Hydrate, take some supplements, that kind of thing. And just have that process and turn it into a ritual, and don't let anything get in the way of it. And I think that if you have consistency with little rituals like that, that just leads to amazing success over long term.
Yes, I love it. Jai, thank you so much for sharing your story. Sounds like you've had a lot of things happen to you that turned out to be life-changing, life-altering, positive things to put you in the right direction. So beautiful story. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You guys, this is your host, Deanna Radulescu with Label Free Podcast. To live your best life, you must live label free. As always, don't forget to subscribe, follow, rate, review, comment, share, all those good things. And I'll be back soon with more dynamic guests.